Most respected Dr. Mahendra Singh Ji, President Maha Bodhi Society of India, trustee members Dr. Surendra Kumar Mahapatra Ji, Sri Deepak Chaudhary Ji, all our governing body members of Maha Bodhi Society of India, and Randesh Chaudhary Ji and others, those who have joined this meeting. So it is a very immense pleasure for me to get associated with this webinar on this these two great personalities, Anagarika Dharmapal and Mrs. Mary Elizabeth Foster. Much has been already said by by Amalji. I will try to give some of the specific point related with Anagarika Dharmapal as well as our Mrs. Mary Elizabeth Foster. In first part, I will discuss Anagarika Dharmapal as in search of meditation. As our Amalji had discussed that Anagarika Dharmapal was a great multifaceted personality. There were so many aspects related with his personality. But one aspect has not been discussed by some of our scholars, that he was also a scholar of our Pali studies, as well as he was having a great authority on meditation also. So with the permission of our President Mahendra Singh Ji, I would like to share my screen, and I would share some of the PPTs related with our Anagarika Dharmapal as well as our Mrs. Foster. So there are two things which I am going to discuss with you, that Anagarika Dharmapal search for meditation, as well as Mrs. Mary Elizabeth Foster Charities to Maha Bodhi Society of India. We have already heard from Amalji that how Madam Blavatsky came to Sri Lanka and she established a Theosophical Society there. And our Anagarika Dharmapal, as he was just 25 years old there, and he was studying there in college, and he joins that Theosophy Society, which was established by Madam Blavatsky. So in 1873, there was a foundation of Vidyodaya Oriental College, or Vidyodaya Pariven. In 1880, Madam Blavatsky or Colonel Olcott started the Buddhist Theosophical Society. In 1884, the Anagarika Dharmapal joined them, and from that time up to date, devoting his whole life and wealth for the furtherance of Buddhism. In 1885, Dharmapal, when he was just 21 years, meets Madam Blavatsky, and he developed lifelong relations with the Theosophical Tantra. And he was influenced to meditation. From here, there is a search of meditations by Anagarika Dharmapal. In 1891, he comes to Bodh Gaya, begins to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning to practice meditations. He comes in contact with a Burmese practitioner at Bodh Gaya, made a search for practicing meditations, and started reading Visuddhi Magga of Acharya Buddha Ghosh. From here, he started reading the text Acharya Buddha Ghosh magnum opus work, Visuddhi Magga, the path of the purifications. I will come that how he came in contact with the Visuddhi Magga and how he has made some of the notes on Visuddhi Magga. And these notes on Visuddhi Magga by Nagarika Dharmapal is kept in the office of Mahabodhi Society of India, Saranath, Varanasi. And I have taken some of the help from that Anagarika Dharmapal notes on Visuddhi Magga. So I will come to that point, but how he develops and he comes in search of the meditation. Anagarika Dharmapal teaches at Green Acres in June, August 1987, based on Visuddhi Magga, mindfulness of breathing, Anapan Sati, that is the Kamathan Gahanidesa, chapter 3rd of Visuddhi Magga. He had practiced over it, but this Visuddhi Magga was not recognized as a work of meditations. And during the 19th century or before that, the meditation, especially belonging to Buddhism, was considered as a mysticism. I will come that how a book on Yogachar Manual of Buddhism, which was published by Polytech Society, London, by C.F. Davids, and it is written that it is the Indian mysticism. So meditation at that time, it was considered as a mysticism. In Sri Lanka also, people or the monks were not aware of the jhana as well as samadhi as discussed in the Visuddhi Magga or in the 7 stages of purifications which were discussed in the Majjhima Nikaya by the Blessed One. The 7 stages in the Rath Viniti Sutta, they were not aware of that. I will come that what was the position and why the monks were not aware of the proper training of the jhanas or the samadhis there. That is the Rupa Jhana and Arupa Jhana. In the meantime, Compendium of Anagarika Dharmapal in Sri Lanka, that is the collections of letter, which was handed over to C.F. Rhys Davids at Polytech Society, London. And this is called as a Dharmapal Lipi, that is the Dharmapal Vidarsana, that is it is written in our Anagarik Dharmapal Trust in Colombo also. And that copy is also kept in our Anagarika Dharmapal Trust at Colombo. So translation of the text Visuddhi Magga in Singlish was done in 1894, but the importance was not recognized. And there are some of the things which have been discussed by our scholars at that time also, that in the meditation in earlier 20th century covered under the generic term mysticism. Scholars like K.N. Jaitilke of Sri Lanka, who has written Buddhist theory of knowledge, as well as J.K. Wordsworth. He has also written a book on Indian Buddhism, and they have discussed that meditation as a living tradition ended in 1900, that is the 20th century in the beginning. So in Sri Lanka as well as in India, there was a dark phase for the Indian meditations which are practiced in our, especially by the text of Pali. So especially in Myanmar as well as in Thailand, there were some of the practices which were followed on the teachings available in the Ratvinita Sutta as well as Rahulovada Sutta of Majjhima Nikaya. But the Sri Lanka, the monks were not aware of all these developments, what it developed in other Southeast Asian countries, especially Laos and Cambodia. And the development of the meditations developed on the Buddhist text has been discussed by our Kate Kurowski in the text Theravada Meditation. And she has discussed that how the development of the meditations, Buddhist meditations, it has developed more than Sri Lanka as well as India in the countries of the Laos, Thailand, and Myanmar. These three countries, they developed more, and we are having that how the development of our samadhi or meditations, they were developed in Myanmar. Again, there is a Don Martico of British Museum and Caroline C.F. Rees-Davids of Polytech Society of London in 1916. They dismissed the opinion that there is a end of the meditation in a generic form, that not in the form of mysticism, but it was developed. They do not accept it, and they have written their papers on Indian meditations, that how there is a living tradition on that. And Kretkovsky in the Theravada meditations, he has discussed that how it has been developed in other Southeast Asian countries. Even was a great Acharya Yana Ram of Sri Lanka, who was a great teacher of Sri Lanka, and said that there is not a method of meditation, what it has been discussed in the Visuddhimagga, in the Kammatthana, from the third chapter to 13th chapter, which discusses about the 40 subjects of meditation, as well as Rup Samadhi and Arup Samadhi, how they can be developed, and what is the role of the Kalyan Mitt. So Yana Ram, who was a great teacher of Sri Lanka, he does not accept it, that it is a method of our, and these the method which have been discussed in Acharya Buddha Ghosh Visuddhimagga, as well as in the text of Abhidhamma, they are more complicated. They are saying that in the suttas available in Dik Nikaya and Majjhima Nikaya, there are only 4 jhanas, but in Dhammasangani or in other Abhidhamma texts, there are 5 jhanas. So they are saying that there is a contradictory statement in the suttas as well as in Visuddhimagga. So the importance of the Visuddhimagga was not recognized. And even the Visuddhimagga, which was published in Sinhalese language in 1894, it was not popular in Sri Lanka. Then Anagarika Dharmapala requested C.F. Rees-Davids for English translations to be published by our Polytech Society in London. And for that, he gives 1,000 rupees, Indian rupees, to C.F. Rees-David for as a contributions for the publication of this Visuddhimagga English translation, Path of Purity. And this 1,000 rupees, which was received by Anagarika Dharmapal from his own parents as a personal expenses. He didn't give from other dan or whatever he received from the charities or donations, but whatever he received the dan or monthly expenses from his own parents from Sri Lanka, he gave to C.F. Rees-Davids. So Dharmapal requested Mrs. Rees-Davids to translate Visuddhimagga. Now I have made some of this Visuddhimagga. I have made a PDF copy of this Visuddhimagga of Anagarika Dharmapal. It was in 1896. The whole notes had been written in. Sometimes he writes in Sinhalese and sometimes he writes in English. And he translates some of the technical terms, all these things. And whenever there are some of the things related with the, so he discusses that how the khandas are discussed in the second part. You see the cover page, it has been written by Anagarik Dharmapal by his own writing. that Visuddhi Mag Anagarika Dharmapal. So first page starts from here, the cover page, and second page this you will find, and how they have been written. The first chapter, or especially the third chapter, Kamathan Gahanidesa, which has been discussed by Anagarika Dharmapal. The notes have been written in Sinhalese, and sometimes he writes English also. And whenever he writes some of the notes in English, it has been given in the second page. If you see in the footnotes, it has been written. The book is very important. I am very much interested also that this book be published by Maha Bodhi Society. Whatever it has been written by Anagarika Dharmapal, I request our authorities of Mahabodhi Society of India to take care of it and get it published in as it is written by our Anagarika Dharmapal. Although there are so many works which have been written on Visuddhi Magga, the path of purification by Bhikkhu Yanamoli, but that explanation which has been given by Anagarika Dharmapal, it is very marvelous. The explanations which have been given with the soothing mindset of the Sri Lankans as well as Indians. Some of the terms which are understood by our Sri Lankans as well as our Indians, the English interpretations of the things that have been done. The same thing we do not find in the Path of Purity, which has been published by our Polytech Society, the translation of Visuddhi Magga. But if you see that how he has written and how he compares the other texts which were published in Myanmar also, whenever he is writing about the Rupajhan and Rupajhan, on the second chapter, you will see that how he is discussing about the Pathanu Des Deepani, and it was written by Acharya Lady Seado of Myanmar. And it is a text which discusses about the relations between mind and matter, that is the Nam and Rupa. And he gives all these things that how these are readable also, these can be typed and this can be printed also. And the explanations which have been given, you will not find in the Path of Purity or in the Bhikkhu Yanamoli. It is quite different. And some of the which have been written by our Anagarika Dharmapal, it is marvelous. And some of the terms which have been explained, they are very soothing to the mind of our Indian people as well as our Sri Lankan people. So he was also aware that the books which were published from Myanmar and acharyas who were working on the meditations like Lady Seado or Bin K. Seado. So later on, we are having the legacy of the Seados there, and how Satyanan Goenka ji who developed the Anapanasati. And our Anagarika Dharmapal, he also developed the practice related with the Anapanasati. I will come when our Amalji was discussing that the points which were discussed with Mary Foster, what were the points he quoted from the Visuddhi Magga? I will come to the fourth chapter of Visuddhi Magga, what he discussed that how anger can be controlled by a person, and then he has quoted one passage from the Visuddhi Magga. I will come later on, but here how much he was interested in the Visuddhi Magga. He had gone through all the 23 chapters of Visuddhi Magga, and he has written a very marvelous explanation of all the technical terms available in Visuddhi Magga. Although there are some of the things in our Sinhalese, but they can be translated into English also by the persons who are having knowledge of Sinhalese as well as our English. So I was talking about that how the meditation was discussed as a mysticism. So there is a book, if you see that how the book Yogachar Manual of Buddhism, the title has been given as Indian Mysticism by T.W. Rhys Davids. It was published by Politics Society. And if you go through the how they are discussing and how the persons are having difficulty in understanding the jhanas which are available in suttas as well as in our Dhammasangani text or other text of Abhidhamma Pitaka. So if you see that finally the jhanas are not a group in the Yogavachar manual, but treated in conjunctively as associated with other groups, are constantly mentioned in the suttas. But there are always four in number. That is the Vitak Vichar Piti Sukekta Sahitam Patham Jhanam, Vichar Piti Sukekta Sahitam Dutiya Jhanam, Piti Sukekta Sahitam Tatiya Jhanam, Sukekta Sahitam Chatutta Jhanam, Upekha Ekakta Sahitam Pancham Jhanam. But here in the Suttas, one in the second and the third becomes one. So in that way, there are four jhanas there, and in the Abhidhamma, there are five jhanas. So T.W. Rhys Davids discusses all about it in Yogachara manual and says that so far as the above results are negative, they are liable to correction when the rest of the suttas or the pitakas come to be published. But they are sufficient to show that our volume represents almost throughout a stage of belief and of practice, much later than the pitakas and often later even than Buddha Ghosh. And lastly, on in the preface page, last, the T.W. Rhys Davids also says that I have done in the hope that someone will, with leisure at his command, may be induced to devote to the problem of Buddhist mysticism, as difficult as it is interesting, the time and the labor which is so richly deserves. So this was the development that how the people were, and people were thinking that how the meditations which the were in the form of the jhanas, they were not in a proper manner in Sri Lanka. And there is a development that how in the laws and in Thailand there is a Dhammakaya, and how in the Dhammakaya there is a Rahulovada Sutta, which discusses about the seven stages of the purifications, which was taken as a method of meditation in Dhammakaya. But in Sri Lanka, we are having a different kind of meditations. And in Myanmar, we are having the Anapanasati, which is a development of our 40 subjects of meditations in the third chapter of Kamathan Gahan Nirdesh of Visuddhi Magga. So this is the development that how there is a, in Pan Asia, we are seeing the development of, we are not going to make a detail a study of here, but how Anagarika Dharmapal developed this Anapan Sati for the Rupa Jhan and Arupa Jhan, and on the basis of the methods which have been discussed by Acharya Buddha Ghosh in Visuddhi Magga, especially in the third chapter and the fourth chapter, where there is a discussion of the first jhan, second jhan, third jhan, fourth jhan, and fifth jhan. He had developed his interest on the meditations, and he was taking classes of meditations there also. Now we are coming to the that how this meditation, which was developed by Anagarika Dharmapal, although Anagarika Dharmapal did not visit Thailand or Laos or other countries, Myanmar, and he could not be able to understand the modernized techniques of the meditations there. But whatever he has developed, his meditations more some similarity to the Tantra meditations via theosophy, what he had developed with the association of Madame Blavatsky in 1886 or 87. So this is our traditions, which is the legacy from Madame Blavatsky. He developed the tradition of meditations based upon our Visuddhi Magga. Now we are coming to the first meeting of Mrs. Mary Elizabeth Foster with our Anagarika Dharmapal. We are quite aware that when Anagarika Dharmapal visited California uh, for the World Parliament of Religions in 1893, and then when he was returning from there, he met with our Mrs. Mary Foster. And there was an arrangement, and when the ship was coming from Chicago to our the lady where Honolulu she was residing, then there was a meeting in the ship itself. Mrs. Foster approaches to the Anagarika Dharmpal and puts a question that how this indomitable anger can be controlled by a person. And Anagarika Dharmapal give the psychological advice based upon that how the uh, psychological immoral states as a Chetasika or psychic factors based upon the Abhidhamma, how these immoral psychic factors can be controlled with our Roop Samadhi or Arup Samadhi. So based upon the Roop Samadhi and Arup Samadhi, he had advised him that how there can be control on the five Nivarnas. And on the basis of the fourth chapter of Kamatthana Gahanidesa, of third chapter of Visuddhi Magga Kamatthana Gahanidesa, Anagarika Dharmapal prescribes that these five nivarnas, namely Kamachand, Vyapad, Thinimid, Udaj, Kukuch, and Vichkicha, these five nivarnas are immoral cyclic states which put obstacle in the path of concentration, and they can be controlled with the five factors of jhanang, that is the vitakka, vichar, piti, sukh, and ekaggata, that is the roop samadhi, that is the five stages or five factors of the roop jhan. And in Visuddhi Magga, he has given that kamesu chandam patigham vinodaye uddhach middham vichikitsa panchamam vivek pamuj karane chetasa rajao Sudant Gato Tahim Rameti. So this is the chapter third, Kamathan Ghan Des, whereas Anagarika Dharmapal gives. So these five Nivarnas, namely Kamachand, that is the Kamesu Chandam, Patigam, that is the Vyapad, Vinode means dispelling the Kamachand, Vyapad, and Udhach Kukuch as well as thin midham, these two for sloth and torpor, as well as brooding over the mind, and what should be done and what should not be done. And Vichkicha, that is the doubt related with the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. These five nivarnas or hindrances can be removed by a person by the our Roop Samadhi. So Vivek Pamoj Karane Chetasa. So this chit consciousness can be gladdened with the joy or happiness in the silence mood, just like a Raja Sudant Gotor Tahim Rare, just like a king who wanders in a forest which does not have any dust or any obstacle. So it has been given that a forest of a king, which does not have, it is a very clean, which does not have any dust or a blackening or a spot. He also rejoices there in the same manner. A yoga bachar can rejoice with gladdened heart by removing all these things. And the formula which was given by Dharmapal, that I will be and I will control the rising anger. So this krodha is one of the 14 types of psychological immoral states, namely that is the 14 akusala chetasikas. So Anagarika Dharmapal, he had prescribed on the basis of Rup Samadhi. So on the basis of he had discussed in the same village also. I am not aware of all these things, but in Visuddhi Magga he has discussed that how these five nivarnas or the hindrances can be removed by on the basis of the Kamathan Nidesa. So this is the our discussion which has been given by our Anagarika Dharmapal, and when and it gave very solace to our Mrs. Foster also, and she was able to control her indomitable anger. And in that way, she had developed confidence with Anagarika Dharmapal, and both of them became friends also. Again, in August 1902, revisiting of Dharmapal in United States of America and requesting Mary Foster for industrial school in Sarnath. Anagarika Dharmapal was, before 1902, he was not a vision of that how Sarnath can be developed for the economically backward people of Sarnath villages. So he made a plan that how agriculture engineering college can be started there. And for that, he made a plan. And in 1902, he sent a proposal to Mrs. Foster to establish a, agriculture engineering college at Sarnath. And it was established in Sarnath with the help of the grant given by our Mrs. Foster. So in 1944, Dharmapal request for help in erecting Muslim at Sarnath. Whatever we are having Mulagandkuti Bihar, the proposal was again given to Mrs. Foster, and it was granted. And in the beginning, 17,789 rupees was granted to our Anagarika Dharmapal for constructing that. So about the Mrs. Foster, our Amarji has also said something about it. But Mrs. Foster was born on September 21st, 1844, and visited the family of the King Kamu, Great of Hawaii, through her maternal lineage. Her parents were James and Rebecca, and she married T.R. Foster, a wealthy banker of North America. The path of Anagarika Dharmapal, the son of an aristocratic Sinhala family, and Mary Foster, the descendant of the great Hawaiian monarch, did not cross until 1894 back to Ceylon via Japan after having scored a tremendous success at the World Religions in Chicago. The meeting between these two outstanding personalities happened chance meeting which took place on the SS Oceanic. During his time, the Nagarik met his great Hawaiian Mary Foster 3 times, while Mulgandkuti Bihar was started with her financial assistance. She also generously gave the religious, social, and educational activities launched by the Nagarik both in India and Sri Lanka. Mrs. Foster passed away on the 19th of December at Honolulu, nearly 2 and before the image of the Anagarika Dharmapal. These are the 2 photographs which I have taken from the issues of the Mahabodhi journal. And this, if you see that it was in honor of our Mrs. Foster, 2 photographs have been published by Anagarika Dharmapal. And when she passed away, she 2 series, 2 issues were published as a special issue of the Mahabodhi journal. So these have been given in the photograph. Again, one photograph which has become more popular nowadays, but this photograph has been also taken from Mahabodhi journal. So, Mrs. Ferry Foster, and what are the charities or the donations by Anagarik to the Anagarik Dharmapal by Mrs. Mary Foster? So, let us, in a very brief manner, and what are the correspondence by Mrs. Foster to Anagarika Dharmapal? I will give you, it will show that how much both of them were associated and they were having close understanding. Both of them were having, and it is great to know that Mrs. Foster, whatever the grants she gave to Anagarika Dharmapal, she never asked that what were the expenses of those granted on what the items. This is the greatness of the Mrs. Foster. Whatever she gave, she didn't ask any a statement of the utilization of those grants in what sense it has been utilized. So Mrs. Foster knew of, and Anagarik Dharmapal writes about all the activities done by Anagarik Dharmapal on the grants of given by Mrs. Foster in the issues of the Mahabodhi journal. And each issue is being sent to the our Mrs. Foster. And she comes to know all the activities of Anagarika Dharmapal. And we are see today that in how many days is this is the issues of the journals we are reaching to Mrs. Foster. But our Anagarik Dharmapal writes in Mahabodhi Journal that Mrs. Foster knew of my movements through the Mahabodhi Journal, but made no appeal of her. In 92, I was at Los Angeles, California, and then the thought came to me, found a movement to illiterate the children of the neglected people of northern India and to found an agricultural school at Banaras, Sarnath. Mary Foster's large donations began in 1920 by sending $50,000 Victory Bonds USA endowment for carrying works of Mahabodhi Society of India. And in 1923, she sent a $1 lakh with a covering Dharmapal to live in comfort and use the money for good work. She was very much conscious about the health of Anagarika Dharmapal. And what Amalji was also saying that he was very much passion related with the morality as well as apamad, that diligence. He was having the diligence always related with whatever the works it was coming to him. He used to accomplish those works, whatever it was coming to Anagarika Dharmapal. So in that sense, it was she was very much conscious about the health of Anagarika Dharmapal. And especially some of the grants she was giving to make comforts for himself to Anagarik Dharmapal. In reply to Venerable Anagarik Dharmapal, later thanking Mrs. Foster for her last and bring $1 lakh, he received a touching letter from her, which we reproduce below. It has been published in our Mahabodhi journal. So this your letter of April 12th reached me in Chicago today. I left San Francisco on May 12th to visit. I am living in this town and your letter was forwarded to me. I note what you state in regard to your self-control on part. The money sent to you is for you to use for your comfort as well as for the work. You are accessible and grateful to you for all you have done for me. Please grant me this one wish. Do take care of your enjoyment and make enjoyment by being with your mother more often. Live for your the Mahabodhi, Sri Dharmaraj Kabihar, Kolkata, for the construction of which Mrs. Foster donated 65,000 rupees, 65,123 rupees. So this letter shows that how Anagarik Dharmapal health was taken care of by Mrs. Foster, and some of the grants which were given to especially to take care of. But Anagarik Dharmapal didn't use for himself because he was already getting the monthly expenses from his own parents from Sri Lanka. And from those expenses, he used to give it to Bali Tech Society for the publications of some of the books, like Visuddhimag and other books, and other expenses also from the father also. He didn't use for himself, but for the cause of the disseminations of the Buddha Dhamma. So again, continue as a slight return to the her ministration to the Buddhist of Ceylon. Observe her birthday, which of September with almsgiving and rejoicings of the schools and Mahabodhi Society, all educational and social institutions which have been helped with funds from our contribution. The money that Mrs. Foster had entrusted to the Anagarika Dharmapal was invested in house property securities and are mainly administered by Messrs. Julius and Chrissy, who were the Anagarika Dharmapal advisors. The Anagarika was trustee and judicially implies the interest in the religious and the social he was carrying on in Ceylon, India, and Europe. The Anagarika was the trustee and judicially the interest in the religious and social work that he was carrying on in Ceylon, India, and Europe. One of the first objects to which her money was set aside was the school at Sarnath. Near Sarnath has become a Buddhist center, and towards the new Vihara, Moolganj Kuti Bihar, Foster had given or donated 30,000 rupees at the time, 1923. From 1902 to 1913, Mrs. Foster contributed 3,000 rupees a year, and with this Mahabodhi uh, was brought and the educational works of Mahabodhi Society was carried on till 1915. The uh, of rights of Ceylon, the work of the Mahabodhi suffered. So this is again picture which has been taken from the Mahabodhi journal, and this is the grant by Mrs. Foster, which was given to Anagarika Dharmapal for the construction of a school at Rajgiriya in Colombo. So one of the schools which was benefited by Anagarika by the grants of Mrs. Foster. So see the figure of that school. This school is still continuing there in Rajgiriya, Colombo. So the grants in Sarnath, Varanasi also, we are having the schools which were carried on. But the agriculture college for which was established by Anagarika Dharmapal, it was closed with the order of district magistrate because the director, who was appointed by Mrs. Mary Foster, was American, and the district magistrate who was at that time from the British government, and he thought that some of the missionary movements are being carried out by the director of that agricultural college and technology at Sarnath. And by the order of commissioner as well as the district magistrate at that time, this agriculture college was stopped in Sarnath. So this was a very or great setback to Anagarika Dharmapal. This college was flourished, but due to the missionary activities, suspicious missionary activities, which was undertaken by our British government at the time, it was stopped. So again, the charities Mercy Foster said in the beginning to Anagarik Dharmapal that we will work together and the honor must be mine as was. May it please the great all that we may meet again. But they both of them didn't meet any time. Mary Foster supported Anagarik Dharmapal quest to restore Bodh Gaya. She also generously supported the Mahabodhi Society Seminary for Sinhalese monks and nuns and foster home and orphans in Colombo. In 1915, there was as many as 20 schools under the management of Mahabodhi Society of India, and that Mahabodhi Vidya Parishad was also restored at Sarnath. Under that Mahabodhi Vidya Parsad, all the educational institutes were governed. On the appeal of the Dharmapal, Mr. Foster donated single-handedly, and the dream of a Bihar in Kolkata was also materialized. Dharmaraj Ke Chaitya Bihar, which was constructed at our Calcutta Center of Mahabodhi Society of India. It was all credit goes to Mrs. Mary Foster, and the whole grants which was given 60,000 at that time. So initially 15,551 rupees was given, but later on it was 63,606. So in June 1916, the government of India offered a holy relic, the Lord Buddha, at the Mahabodhi Society of India at Dharmarajika Chaitya Bihar, which was built at a cost of 1 lakh, and lodging for the bhikkhus and headquarters of the society were added at a cost of 23,800, of which Mrs. Foster contributed altogether 67,000. So some of the 23,800 it was given by the Charities of Anagarika Dharmapal from the monthly expenses which he was getting from his own parents from Colombo. So this is the Dharmarajika Cheti Vihar. This is again the picture which has been taken from the Mahabodhi journal, which was published at that time, and it is written also that rupees 65,123, the rupees was granted by Mrs. Mary Foster. And this is one after 100 years of Dharmaraj Ka Kshatriya Bihar establishment. There was a special issue of Mahabodhi Journal, which was published in December 2020. So this is the same picture was given on the cover page of Mahabodhi Journal. So this was the main shrine in the beginning when it was constructed. The photograph it has been taken from Mahabodhi Journal itself when it was completed. This was the structure of our Dharmaraka Chaitya Bihar. So again, there was a issue in 2021, again in honor of our Dharmaraj Ka Chaitya Bihar. Another issue was also published, and the photograph of Dharmaraj Ka Chaitya Bihar was also published. So this just on the day of 17th September 2025, there was a celebration of birth anniversary of Anagarika Dharmapal. So this is the structure of Dharmaraj Ka Chaitya Vihar. We will see the grandeur of this Dharmaraj Ka Chaitya Vihar. The temple inside, people are. The second grant which was given for Mulgandhkuti Bihar of Saranath, and 30,000 rupees which was given to Anagarika Dharmapal by Mrs. Foster. And this picture has been also taken by from the Mahabodhi Journal. And it is written that rupees 30,000 was granted to Anagarika Dharmapal for construction of Mulagad to Bihar. So this is the construction. It was still going on. It was not completing, but the back portion it was likely to be completed. So the picture, the nowadays is our Mulagand Kuti Bihar from the back side, and from the our front side you can see the eminence, and inside the this is the main gate of our Mulagand Kuti Bihar. It is also going to be 100 years. I think after 1 year or 2 years, it is also going to be completed 100 years. So the London Buddhist mission also, the what Amalji was also taking, it is also going to be 100 centenary year. This is the main gate of our Mulgand Kuti Vihar, and the main temple. We see the grandeur of our Buddha in the Dhammacakkappavattana mudra, which has been given here. The inside you will see the activities and how Koseku Nosu, Japanese painter, has depicted the life and teachings of the Buddha on the walls of Mulgandhkuti Bihar. So you can see how it is now signing. All the credit goes to our Mrs. Mary Foster. So this is the lastly we are coming to that in January 1920 she sends $50,000 worth of USA government bonds, and in June 1923 another common dollars. In 1925 November, when the Anagarika visited her in San Francisco, he was cordially received by promised $300 a month for 2 years to carry on his propaganda in England. Anagarika Dharmapal had contributed rupees 1,000 a month for the upkeep of the three Buddhist bhikkhus, disseminating the doctrines of the Buddha in London. The house, whatever he was getting from the Colombo, from his parents, he was giving 1,000 rupees per month for the Vipus at London, Buddhist Bihar. The house at 41 Gloucester Road, Regent's Park, quarters of Maha Society in London, has been brought with gracious lady's permission for the dollars. A donation of 61 pounds was given by Mrs. Fori Foster in 1925. Another donation of 25 pounds was given for the London Buddhist Mission. Being wealthy, she likes Bisakha Devi was unstinting her dana. So she has been compared with Bisakha Upasaka, who has given all the generosities to the Blessed One. So she, Mary Foster has been compared with Vishakha of the modern time. So what she was having, she had given all of the rupees or the pounds or the dollars to Anagarika Dharmapal. So she has been given Jathapi Purasi Maha Kaira Mala Gun Bahu Yom Jati Namachena Katabam Kusulam Bahu. That as many as kinds of garlands may be made from the heap of flowers. So much good should be done by once born mortal. So this Mary Foster can be compared with this. So message the tribute to Mary Foster by Anagarika Dharmapal. And when Dharmapal was in search of charities or the donations from all the pan-Asian countries, but he didn't receive any help from any country. He was very disheartened at that time that not even a single country came forward to help for the distribution of the teachings of the Buddha as well as constructions of the Biharas or Chatyas, whatever the. But when he received generosity from Mrs. Foster, uh, after the death of Mrs. Foster, he had written a very paragraph in the Mahabodhi journal. I am just quoting it. That Mrs. Mary Robinson Foster, the patroness of Mahabodhi Society, died on 9th 18, 1924 at her residence in Honolulu at the ripe age of 86. On her passage, the Nagarik Dharmapal distributed to her writes in the Mahabodhi journal. Single-handed I persevered, but no help could be got from the Buddhists of Burma, Siam, and other countries. Thanks to unparalleled generosity of Mrs. Mary Foster, the Buddhist, a beautiful dominating shrine with a 100-foot tower. No single Buddhist came to help me in single-handed efforts. No Burmese, no Siamese, no Japanese, no Chinese, no Tibetan came forward to cooperate with me. But from distant Honolulu came from the Foster to revive the Sasana in India and establish a new Sasana in England. Therein take her place the Buddhist world. There is no one to take her place in this Buddhist world. Wealthy Buddhists are all dead. He was so much disheartened that he is writing that those Buddhists who are wealthy, they are all dead. Self-sacrificing bhikkhus are rare. India will again supply young heroes to preach the doctrines of Ahimsa, Karuna, and wearing the yellow robe. I have worked for India since 1891, and now I am an invalid. Only wish in my heart to die on the holy ground where stands the Mool Gudi Bihar. So this was the very emotional statement which were written by our Anagarika Dharmapal in tribute to Mrs. Mary Foster. So with these words, I pay my great salutations to these two great personalities who mm, had very close associations, as well as both of them worked for the propagations of the teachings of the Buddha in every aspect, whether it is in the construction of the schools or educational institutes, or the construction of the chaityas, biharas, and others. So both of them have done very commendable job. And with these words, I thank to the organizing committee, especially President Maha Society of India, as well as our General Secretary, Maha Society of India, for giving me an opportunity to speak on honoring these two great personalities, Anagarika Dharmapal, as well as Mrs. Mary Elizabeth Foster. Thank you very much.